Well, I'm not going to be drawing a crowd, just so you know, if you're trying to get
Right, I'm getting ready to start it up
crowd.
now. Let's see. I don't have intros on here. Okay. Yeah, we're on. Yay. So, hello everybody. How's it going out there in YouTube land? Yeah, I'm
You got a bit
coming
of an
through.
echo.
At least I am. There you go. Bluetooth mode. Uh-oh. Oh, that's fine. Probably. Oh, for some reason my Bluetooth speaker cut out on me. Anyway, let's mute this. Mute. That's connected. Okay, so. Well, hello everybody. This is Rick Copple coming at you from Denver, Colorado with another episode of Nautilus Career Guide. Yeah, oh, I messed that up. Forgot to change my last one on this thing to, oh yeah, because it's over there, not over here. I changed on this machine, but I did forgot to change it up on that machine. Sorry about that. I was chatting with Jeremy Copple's chat with Nathan Wolf. Yeah, CubicalNate. And today we're going to have some fun, hope, some good questions, interviews. And sorry about that. I wonder if I can change that real quick. I don't know. Probably too late.
You probably can.
To do it now. But I hate having Jeremy Copple up there, and it's really you all the time. Everybody want to wait while I change that real quick?
Sure, that's fine.
All right. You can start out by telling us a little bit about yourself and your, a little bit about yourself or something like that.
Okay.
While I do that.
Let's see. I'm a dude from Michigan. I've been playing in the Linux space for about 20 years now. I started my computer journey with with the Commodore 64.
Yeah.
Possibly the greatest 8-bit computer of all time. I mean, they're not exactly making new 8-bit. Well, I guess maybe they kind of are.
I have a question
8-bit
about
guy.
some of that later on too.
I use I refer to myself online as CubicalNate, because there are lots of Nathans and there are lots of people with the last name Wolf. So CubicalNate distinguishes me and sets me, like nobody is going to want the name CubicalNate. That's just like it's an obnoxious name. So so I go with it. And yeah, so I started with the Commodore 64, and I've gone, and then from there I went to the Amiga. I never really liked the x86 line of computers. I didn't like DOS. Windows didn't do anything for me. So when I was sort of forced to go from the Amiga to Windows, like this is like 98. I call this my dark ages of computer user history.
Yeah.
For about 4 years, I pretty much didn't care at all about computers. I didn't enjoy them. They weren't fun. I would occasionally play like a game, a DOS game or whatever, or maybe not necessarily DOS, but some sort of x86 Windows Microsoft core based games like Descent or Doom or Heretic, Rise of the Triad, stuff like that. But I didn't really enjoy computers. Oh, Warcraft 2, Tides of Darkness. That's one that I enjoyed. And anyway, so I didn't really care about computers. They were just a thing. They didn't excite me. I wasn't, fascinated by them. I think the computer I bought was an AMD K62. It's kind of, I don't say it was an off-brand necessarily, but it was not a, not a name brand. It was just another computer. And I used it for quite a while. It's actually the first computer I installed Linux on, because I didn't really use it that much. I didn't have a need to really use computers at home really at that time. All I did was, online banking or whatever. So then I found then I started using Unix. I'm like, oh my gosh, this is fantastic. This CDE, common desktop environment, I thought was just just so groundbreaking because it had like virtual desktops and it was more customizable. And I started getting excited about computers again. And
Mhm.
then someone said, well, have you tried Linux? And I said, I've heard of it. And I says, but I haven't, because I was frightened by it because of some certain aspects of what Linux was.
Mhm.
And they said, well, you should try it again. So I got a copy of Mandrake. Then, and I was away from home. I was deployed overseas to a little place called Kosovo, where I did not, I was stuck on Windows, but I did a lot of reading on Linux. And then I got my first laptop shortly thereafter, and I learned it was a Sony Vaio, actually a piece of garbage. But the Dell that I got right after that also put Linux on that, and that was a great time. I really enjoyed learning Linux. I spent a lot of my times in man pages, and pretty much I was hooked at that point. I dual booted for a very short period of time, maybe a few months ish, and then I and then pretty much I was on Linux full time since I would say full time since 2004, and
Mm.
part time in 2003, full time in 2004, and then yeah, that's so this November I think makes for a 20-year mark in since I've been using Linux, and now we're here.
Mm. Cool. Yeah.
You
Well.
didn't send me a you didn't send me a pre-list of like of questions, so now I'm a little worried that maybe you're gonna it's gonna be one of those controversial interviews, where you're gonna back me into a corner and I'm gonna have to like kind of squirm my way out when you ask me some really hard-hitting questions.
Yeah. Yeah, they're pretty generic questions. I mean, a little bit of controversy, I guess, in certain spots, but we'll figure it out as we go. Yeah.
All
So,
right. I'll just defer to my PR team if it's a question I don't want to answer. And by PR team, I mean me.
yeah, right. Well, if you don't want to answer any of them, just say I'd rather pass on that one or whatever, and we'll go on.
I'm
But
sure that they're all going to be fun questions.
yeah. So, which of the Harry Potter characters? Yeah, I assume you like Harry Potter. You
I'm
seen
not a
those?
big Harry Potter fan. I mean, I like Harry Potter fine.
Okay.
But I will say Harry Potter is my favorite Jedi in Star Trek. So that's
Oh, yeah. Well, so you like Star Trek then, right?
yeah, I like Star Trek, Star Wars. I think
Star Trek.
Harry Potter. I just haven't seen Harry Potter in a long time, but I remember enjoying it.
Yeah.
I enjoy it because like one of the bad guys, a Slytherin, I think.
Slytherin. That's
Yeah,
one of
the houses or
the
whatever.
houses. Yeah, the house.
Yeah.
What they call
So I think the the leader or whatever the instructor he played in Galaxy Quest,
them. Right.
and I really liked him. I liked him in the Harry Potter movies only because he was in Galaxy Quest, which I really enjoyed, which was making fun of Star Trek. So yeah.
Right. Okay, out of Star Trek and Star Wars, then, out of all the characters in those, which one do you think fits best your personality and character and why? If you were to be one of them.
That's a tough one.
Yeah, I know. There's a lot of selection there.
Well, I would say my all-time favorite sci-fi character,
Hmm.
like of all the characters, is Data.
Yeah.
And I would say I identify most with Data because I've never really understood the culture that I'm in anyway. And so I always feel
Mhm.
like I'm kind of an oddball, and Data was an oddball because of that. I wasn't an orphan. I wasn't discovered on a planet, or
Right.
whatever. But I feel like in many ways, I don't like I try my best to understand um humanity, I guess. That's not the right word. That's not the right way of saying it. But like I try to do my best to understand people, but I do often feel like I'm just a fish out of water of sorts.
Right.
So in that way, I don't think I'm quite as dull as Data, although he was funny, but funny because he was,
Yeah, he has
fish out of
moments.
water. But as far as like the character that I want to say, I probably identify most with Jar Jar Binks,
Oh,
maybe.
yeah?
Yeah, because nobody likes him. So that's why I
Poor
think that
guy.
so I think Jar Jar Binks. I'm gonna say that's my sci-fi character because he's he's fun and enjoyable, but nobody likes him because he's annoying. That's
Mm-hmm.
that's probably me.
All right. I think I got that one. I don't know if it'll update it as I put it over there and replace it, but we'll see. Okay. Excuse me while I do some stuff over here.
Certainly.
Yeah, how did you come up with the name CubicalNate? I think you mentioned it in your introduction, but maybe a little bit more on that.
Well, I didn't wasn't given I was that was a name, but that was a name that was given to me by a friend of mine who's in radio.
No.
He he
Oh,
called me GI Nate when I was deployed overseas because I was, a
right.
GI. And then when I left the army full time, just became a reservist and was that's I'm saying that funny, but for all intents and purposes, when I got a civilian job in corporate America, he
Yeah.
said, "Well, I can't call you GI Nate anymore. Now I'm going to call you Cubicle Nate." And I resented him for that. I thought it was a terrible name, and I did not like it. I was unhappy about it. And then eventually, I just decided to embrace it. And it took about a year or so before I really started to embrace it. Maybe yeah, about a
Yeah.
year or so. And then because he kept calling me that, I texted into his radio show or whatever. And so then I just went with it because it was unique. It was I had gone by Future Boy for a long time on the internet because I'm a big Back to the Future fan,
Yeah.
but I'm not a boy anymore. I'm a middle-aged man, so it's kind of weird to call myself Future Boy when I'm actually like future old man
Uh-huh.
or middle-aged man. So I thought Cubicle Nate has no age association with it. So I thought that's probably a better a better name for me, I guess.
Yeah. Cool. Interesting. Yeah, I was wondering where cubicle came from.
Lived in a cubicle.
Yeah, right. I
And
figured
also
something like that,
in
but I
another
wasn't
way,
sure.
yeah. And in another way, like when you think about like cubicle just means compartmentalized. And and then in my life, I have lots of things I'm interested in, like these different little compartments.
Uh,
So, I have a little hobby farm, little not quite a subsistence farm, but if all of a sudden eggs become rare, which would probably never happen, I
mhm.
have about 30 chickens or so. So I have a good supply of eggs, although it's winter time and the egg production has dropped significantly, but I'm getting turkey eggs and duck eggs and chicken eggs. So I got a variety of eggs. So that's like one little cubicle of my life. And then
Mhm.
I have, other things that obviously the Linux and tech, that's in a part of my life. But the different like different cubicles under tech. So you have, Linux. And then you
Right.
have home automation, which is and like single board computers, although that's very closely related to Linux, at least in my mind, because I do all the configurations from Linux onto like little ESP32s. But that's just another compartment, another cubicle. And then I have my vintage tech enthusiasm. So that's yeah, enthusiasm, maybe that's the right word. And so that's another little cubicle, but that cubicle is divided into other cubicles because there's the Commodore cubicle, there's the Amiga cubicle, and the Atari 8-bit, and so forth and so on. So there's lots of different little compartments that kind of make up me, Nate, Nathan, whatever you want to call me. But Nate's easier to say, I think.
Yeah.
Cubicle, Nate. It's like cubicle is the preamble, Nate is the command. Um, so yeah, that's one of the that's kind. I think it's kind of fitting for me now. This is my cubicle studio out here where I have all these different little things. I have my electronics repair stuff over here. I got my vintage stuff over there. It's supposed to be a vintage desk back here, but I'm working on another project here, which probably can't tell, but it's basically a disaster here, and then from here onward, it's a bigger disaster because I have an Amiga 2000 HG that's in pieces, but I enjoy it. Oh, also an Amiga 1200. I have to get
Oh,
the
cool.
cap the cap kit so I can replace the capacitors on there. They're starting to leak, and I don't want the board to get chewed up and destroyed and so forth.
Yeah.
Yeah, Steve, I'm going by a cubicle Jeremy Copple today. That's
Yeah, right.
why.
Yeah, it looks like it's fitting for. I mean, I'd have to. I don't have the programs on this machine to change it, so yes, I'm
So
stuck
then
with it.
I see Explorers there watching too. That's good. He's one of my fellow Amiga fans. I think I
I
can't remember which
Steve.
Amiga that he has. The
Steve
Amiga
stopped in
500 or
and
1200.
said it had to stop working so I can see the face on no
Nate.
Nate on face on Nate. Yeah, see Nate's face there.
That is not why I would stop working ever. Just saying. I don't think that
Yeah, yeah, I did a Steve apparently. It didn't change the name of the title on your. Yeah, I missed that part of it. I thought I changed on one computer, but I didn't change on another computer. I tried to transfer all over, but I can't do it.
says your mic is popping. It sounds fine from here, so I don't know if maybe it might be a setting on your end.
Yeah, it's probably. I had that problem last time. I need to figure out what that's going on with that anyway. I'll
Yeah, I
try
don't
and
hear it though.
talk.
Explorer's got an Amiga 500 or an Amiga 500. I don't have an Amiga 500. Maybe someday.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, let's see. Hopefully. Okay, time to address the elephant in the room. What is it between you and the distro known as Fedora? Oh, that's OpenSUSE. How'd you get involved with OpenSUSE and that kind of thing? Why do you love it so much?
No idea.
No idea. Just kind of latched onto it.
No, so what happened was my first distribution was Mandrake. Then it became Mandriva. And the reason I like Mandrake originally is because it was a KDE or GNOME distro, could be whatever I wanted. There's just basically two desktops at the time. I think XFCE was another XFCE's been around a long time, but I didn't really care for it. And
Yeah.
I so I used Mandrake for several years. I really enjoyed it. I was involved in their community quite a bit in their forums. Did all my learning there. And then when Mandrake was starting to have some financial problems, and then they started to like kind of peter out a little bit, they I was looking for another distribution. So I was kind of hopping around because it was it was just it wasn't going anywhere, and I was getting kind of it was kind of problematic. So I was just searching, and I didn't like any of the Debian based distributions just didn't work for me. I didn't care for them. The syntax for apt at the time, like apt-get, it just wasn't as nice as urpmi, which is what Mandrake used.
Mm-hmm.
I think OpenMandriva might still use it, or Magia. I don't remember which one.
Yeah. I didn't even
Anyway,
know there was a Mandrake back then.
yeah, well, it's been
So,
some time. And then so I tried OpenSUSE before because it was when I went to buy my box set of Mandrake in the store. I
yeah.
still have it, in fact. I I was like between that and SUSE. And so I went for Mandrake because I don't know, but I did. I read that it was an easier distribution to get started with, and I wanted kind of an easy on ramp so I could actually get going with it and do stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And anyway, so when I started like dabbling with SUSE in 2010, and then I pretty much was over like completely in the SUSE OpenSUSE world by 2011. And actually it was at the end maybe it was the end of 2011, 2010. 20, I think it was 2011, the end of 2011. That's when I made the transition over, and I pretty much haven't looked back since. So I've tried other distributions, and people love their Debian, and that's good. People should love whatever distribution they're using. If you don't love your distribution, what's the point?
Yeah, right.
But what I really liked about OpenSUSE was all the different tools. So things like all the YAS tools, they make it really easy to just do the basic things, because at the time, I really wasn't interested in learning how to do things in the terminal.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I was fine at the terminal, and I did write scripts, but I don't want to have to figure things out by punching stuff in a terminal. I didn't really know what I was doing. I didn't like copying and pasting stuff on the internet because
Never
that's
know
just,
what you're getting
problematic.
unless
And
you
you never
can
know. I
read
mean,
Bash.
right. And I did take the time to learn Bash also, but it wasn't really, it's just not really where I wanted to live. And I didn't really start appreciating the terminal, I think, till about 10 years ago ish. Wait,
Mm-hmm.
2023, 8 years ago ish. is when I actually started to really appreciate the terminal.
Yeah. That's
And
cool.
the reason OpenSUSE like fits for me today, like the reason I use OpenSUSE and the reason like I don't believe there's a distribution out there that's even close to being as good to use as OpenSUSE
Mm-hmm.
is just it has just the right level of hand holding for me
Mm-hmm.
while also giving me full control of the distribution. I should say Tumbleweed specifically. Tumbleweed or Leap is fine, about the same.
Right.
Now I think things are going to change, like the micro OS and the ALP, which Leap is going to turn into ALP, which is a some sort of immutable system, which is fine, and it will probably be great for I think all like enterprise usage. But
Mm-hmm.
I prefer the little more raw Tumbleweed variant because it's well tested, and if I make changes or I alter things, I can always roll back if I don't like what I've done. So it's kind of like Serve Pro, when you have a disaster in your house and they clean it up and they say like it's never like it
Like
never
it
even
never even
happened.
happened.
Yeah, so it's kind of like that. So that's why I like them too. So the whole snapper function I think is fantastic. Now
Yeah.
I do know that Nobra, there's a
Nubera.
Nobera, I don't know what it's called. There's a Fedora variant made
Right.
by Glorious Egg Roll
Right.
that has it's built on Butterfest but uses not Snapper. I think it uses like I don't know what it's called. It's like
Yeah.
sort of time shift or something like that. And
Yeah.
so to me, it's like, well, why? What is the benefit there? I have the
Well, I think he uses
I
better
have
FS basically.
yeah, but he doesn't use Snapper for the rollback feature. He uses a different rollback, which is
Right.
cool, which is fine. Use whatever you like best. That use a tool that works
Right.
best for you. But Snapper works really well. It's integrated right into Grub. So like when I boot up, I can go into a read-only snapshot, and if that's a snapshot that actually works well for me, then I can go ahead and roll it back to that snapshot very easily. These are all terminal tools, which would be cool if it was a graphic user an easy to use, easy to consume graphic user interface, which actually that might be what I end up. I've been learning Python. I might end up trying to write something just for my own edification, just to see how it goes. Anyway, so I like that about OpenSUSE. It's it's my computer. When I run OpenSUSE, I feel like I'm running my computer. Like it's not. I'm not at the mercy of anybody else outside of the packagers, which I've been doing my darndest to learn to do more packaging so that I can help out a little more with the project.
Yeah.
But until I get to the point when I'm actually any good at it, um, uh, I'll have to use other people's stuff right now to work for other
Yeah.
people. But anyway, the point of that is I really feel like it's my distribution. It holds my hand where I need it. It also allows me to be not the best um, sysadmin of my computers. Like it's a rolling, like Tumbleweed is a rolling distribution, but if I don't update it for 4 or 6 months or whatever, it doesn't matter. You just update it. It takes a little bit for it to pull all the packages down, and then it sorts it in there as well as it can. Your system, the packages, and building basically with a snapshot, the most compatible snapshot or whatever of
Right.
software packages it can, and then you have a running working system. So nice thing too is like if I install some packages that don't belong and I realize I've been pulling from a bad repository or whatever, all I have to do is pull out those repositories that were no good and then do a sudo zipper dup in the terminal. And it'll go through and reset all my packaging just how it should be.
Mhm.
Now, it would be nice, in my opinion, it would be nice if there'd be some kind of a little more synergy between like the DNF Fedora team and OpenSUSE, because I think that DNF has it, I think for maybe not for like enterprise server level stuff.
Mhm.
I'm just saying this. I'm spitballing here. I don't actually know that for sure, but I feel like DNF has got a lot more things worked out in it. It's a little bit faster, and then also it integrates with Discover better. So it'd be better for a user desktop user experience if like
Mhm.
they kind of mesh that together like that.
Yeah.
But that's just my opinion.
Yeah.
I got to
MicroS
think about.
kind of shooting for that, I think.
Yeah, I think MicroS is using DNF, and then it's the transactional
Yeah.
updates, which I kind of feel like that's the future of Linux. That's the future of computing because it does allow for like undisturbed core bits of your operating system and that it's in an own working state when you get it. So I feel
Yeah.
like that might be the future. I just don't know exactly how it's going to work with all the different variations of hardware and and
Yeah.
setups and so forth. I know things can be, varied and whatnot. But anyway, that said, I use OpenSUSE, I guess, to roll that back together because they do a great job of holding my hand as much as I need to have my hand held. They give you all the tools to make your computer your own. And if you screw up, the rollback feature allows you to take your system back to a known working state where you can keep using it. So um, Tumbleweed is great because I can play with the latest and greatest software. I mean, I can stay on the cutting edge of software without bleeding to death, basically. And
Yeah.
and so that's really why I enjoy OpenSUSE. I just think it's just the perfect blend of leading edge, but not so leading edge that things break. Like Fedora, a lot of times which,
Yeah.
God bless them for it because I want them to do this, but they'll test new technologies and so forth. And a lot of times systems break or there's incompatibilities. And again, I'm glad they do that because those new technologies do have to be tested. In OpenSUSE, although a rolling distribution is a little bit more conservative about the new technologies they implement. So like Fedora, they implemented Pipewire much sooner than OpenSUSE. OpenSUSE had it there. They didn't make a default until after things shook out a little bit more, which without the Fedora folks shaking out those newer technologies, OpenSUSE never would have probably incorporated them. So
Right.
there's a nice
Right.
balance, I think,
Fedora's
between the
kind of
different
like
distributions.
testing ground of that, I think.
Yeah, of the new technologies, yeah, absolutely. It feels more like a testing ground.
Yeah. So you have something to break there on occasion, stuff like that. But it is what it is. Yeah, and back then you didn't have all the distros we have today. So I mean, you didn't have Ubuntu in the beginning. You didn't have Linux. Man, all these distros were just standard now. Pretty much.
Yeah, the way I see it, Ubuntu is still that new upstart distribution that's trying
Yeah.
to make a lot of noise.
Right.
I'm kidding.
Yeah. Well,
For any of those Ubuntu people that I offended, sorry,
yeah, we're equal distribution.
something.
Yeah, something there. I was going somewhere with that. I can't remember what I was thinking.
Well, actually, I truly think, and there's an asterisk behind the statement, but Linux is Linux. I don't
Yeah.
think that it's all built on the same core. They're all basically pulling from the same different various projects. They're just kind of mixing them in their own way. But really, it all boils down to Linux as being Linux, and that
Yeah.
kind of makes in some ways Linux a little bit boring because it is all sort of the same, but there's different ways that Linux is expressed to you, the end user or the sysadmin or the DevOps or whatever the
Right.
terminology is they're using these days to talk about whatever it is they want to talk about.
Yeah. Yeah, that's cool. Let's see. So, how did I see how you end up in a bar like the Linux Saloon? And tell us what drives you to do it. I'm going
So
to go
how did I
also,
end?
before you start answering that
Okay.
question, I'm going to go turn on the light in here. So maybe I get some startness to race my face. And
Okay.
also, I also wanted to mention too, if you have any questions for Nate out there in the land, out in chat room, just go ahead and tag me on them so I can notice them and I'll go back through them at the end or as they happen or something like that, and we'll address those questions as many as we can before time's up. So anyway, Nate, you're saying I was gonna had a nice
You're
day.
trying
You
to.
end up like a bar like Linux Saloon.
Well, we say you're going to wait until you turn the light on.
Yeah, I'll be right back. I just wanted to
All right.
go in and have some talk.
For the sake of Explore, he says, I thought I had 8 point something, and I even just looked at it, and I still biffed it. This is my first copy of Linux.
Not really.
It is version 7.2. It's complete. It still has all the books and the CDs and the floppy disks. Still has a floppy disk.
Yeah, floppy disk.
So
Those are important back then.
yeah, I think I got some old things I can probably put Mandrake on.
Yeah.
So the question was, how did I end up behind the virtual bar of Linux Saloon. Is that
Right.
essentially what
Yeah.
you're going at?
How'd you end up being involved with Linux Saloon and becoming the head honcho?
Not on purpose. So I
Yeah.
kind of accidentally fell into it. So here's what happened. Here's the skinny on the fat, or the fat on the skinny, or whatever. So it was late 2018. A guy by the name of Rocco, which a lot of people love out there on the interwebs. He had he referred to himself as Big Daddy Linux, and he invited me on. He used to be basically he started Destination Linux, and he used to host a show called Big Daddy Linux Live, or Biddle. And he
Right.
had in a chat, like a mumble, whatever, and he was talking to, I think, Noah Chalaya, and he said to me, "Hey, you should join on Linux Saloon this week." And I'm like, I don't know that I'm really qualified to be speaking to people about Linux. He says, "Oh, no, it's real laid back. It's people just chatting about Linux and computers and tech and stuff,
Right.
or something like that." I'm paraphrasing here. Don't take that as a quote. And so they did every week. They did a different distro challenge. So there's a lot of people would be a part of it, and so I participated, on and off, mostly on, not off. Like, only if I worked or whatever, I wouldn't be there. But I would, I'd show up and contribute. Not a lot in the beginning, and when I had to talk about the distribution that I tried out, I was very nervous to be speaking to people on the World Wide Web.
Mm.
And eventually I got more comfortable with it. And Eric Adams, who I met through Biddle, and Michael Tonello, who I met through Biddle, and Ryan, from the Destination Linux folks, I met through Biddle. I got to know them, and I think sometime in 2020, I think it was, Rocco had some life changes, and he couldn't do Biddle, and then so kind of some other people kind of picked it up here and there, and I think I might have picked it up once. No, I don't think so. But like Dan was doing it, Dan Simmons. That
Right.
was fun. But the anyway, during that time, there'd always be like little weird issues in the Biddle community where people would be either like really rude to Rocco, or would just be just a handful. And I'm like, man, I am so glad I'm not Rocco. I would absolutely loathe being in charge of this sort of thing and having to manage the personnel stuff. And I never want to do that. And then sometime in 2020, he had those life changes, and he backed away from Biddle. And I
Right.
think it was Vash, the Vashinator, Michael Vash, goes by Vash right now, so as to not get confused with other Michaels out there.
Mm-hmm.
He said to me, he says, you should do something on your channel, kind of do some Biddly things. I said, I don't know about that. I said, well, tell you what, I'll call it a cubicle chat, back to that CubicalNate thing.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, we'll do I'll do just a tech, just a general tech chat. And actually, people liked it, and wanted me to do it. So I did it for like 3 weeks. Then Rocco contacted me and says, "Hey, I'll give you the keys to Biddle, and then you can do with it whatever you want." And so then I did that for through 2021. And then at the end of 2021, I was talking with Michael and Ryan about Biddle. I says, but I'm not. I feel like it's a little bit like a little bit of an imposter, because people would constantly be like, "Hey, where's Rocco? Hey, where's Rocco?" And says, "Well, Rocco's not here." I says, "And I'm not Big Daddy Linux. I am CubicalNate." So I wanted to change kind of the same format ish, maybe retooled some things a little bit, and go forth and do call it something else, something. And so I had different names. I don't want to call it Cubicle Chat because it's too CubicalNate. I want it to be less, because CubicalNate means nothing essentially. Cubicle Chat also means nothing. I wanted something that had like some kind of a meaning to it. And so we like thought like Linux Lounge, but that was already taken.
Yeah.
And there was some other, like something about the water cooler, and another name I proposed was something called Linux Out Loud, which actually ended up using for different something else. But anyway, so that we called Linux. It was actually Michael who came up with the idea of Linux Saloon, to call it that. And then you can do all these kinds of plays on, what people would say at a bar, but say that Linux Saloon. So like, people like when you go to a comedy club, whatever they say, or a bar and have a performance, the performer would always say, "Hey, be sure to tip your waitresses or your wait staff. They're working hard for you." And
Yeah.
so converted that to, be sure to tip your developers because, we use Linux and, it'd be nice if you tip them because they're doing a lot of hard work. And then there's a lot of other little plays you can do. Linux is always on tap, things like
Right.
that. And so it makes for some fun,
Yeah.
things. And although
Rating
I think
distros
Linux,
according to beer levels and all that kind of stuff.
right, yeah, stuff like that. Um, Although I stopped doing that because I was afraid I was going to offend somebody, and I don't want to offend people in that regard. Although
Yeah.
it's still a meaningless rating thing, so maybe I'll bring it back. I don't know. I'm thinking about that again. So we're going to probably do, I think, CentOS next. I don't know yet.
CentOS, yeah. I haven't used that before. I've
It's a fun
installed
one.
Alpine and what's the other one they have?
Did a Gecko recently on Linux and
Well, no, they have Alpine. I'm talking about Fedora's
vanilla.
stuff
Oh,
or Red
oh,
Hat.
um, yeah, I don't know. There's
They invest in one. The other's from somebody that does a did a live stream on it a while back or video or
hmm.
something like that. But anyway, I never have messed with the CentOS because it was down for a while. I thought that was the end of it, but it's been resurrected apparently.
Well, it went through some changes. So the old way of doing it went away. Now it's like CentOS Stream, so it's more of a rolling distribution, sort of, but it feeds into Red Hat directly. So they basically open it up community wise, have more input on what Red Hat does. That's essentially what's happening.
Right. All right.
But
Let's see.
to bring that all back, so I did Linux Saloon because there wasn't really any other shows out there at the time where people could just get together, kind of a low barrier of entry, kind of an online Linux users group because there's not a whole lot of Linux user groups out there.
Mhm.
And so that's what it is. Yeah, I want people to come and join and be a part of the Linux Saloon and just talk about tech. It's a friendly place to talk about tech, and that's all we're doing is talking about tech and tech news and projects people are doing, and also like if somebody has something that they're working on, they're really excited about it. Even if it's a content creator of any kind, whether it's video or podcast or there's software development or something cool that they're doing in tech, I love to feature people because I want to encourage people to continue to pursue technology because I think technology, I don't necessarily think it's the answer, but I think doing positive things with technology I think is huge and is wonderful, and I like to encourage that because I love tech.
Cool. So tell us much details you care to how you were introduced to Linux. Well, you already sort of did that in the intro, I guess. So I'll leave it at
Yeah,
that on that one.
I could actually just kind of
Yeah,
do
you
that
can
part of it. So
expand on it or whatever.
when I was you had a corporate job and I was using Unix,
Oh yeah.
I was I said I would love to be able to have something like this at home. How much are one of these HP Unix machines? Like, oh, about 10 grand. Like, oh, well, I'm not interested. I says, well, you have you ever heard of Linux? And I says, yes, I have. This guy named Brian Wood. And so he says, you should try Linux. I said, which one? He says, I don't know. Pick one. He says, there's lots of them out there. And so that's when I picked Mandrake and then the rest is that. But it was basically because of my time of using Unix and how much I enjoyed that I bought a copy
Yeah.
of Mandrake Linux, this very one right here,
Right.
Mandrake Linux 7.2
Mm-hmm.
complete. And it's a simply Linux, easy graphical installation. I was very interested in that.
Yeah.
Immediate hardware detection. That was a big thing at the time.
Mm-hmm.
Office 5.2, which basically became OpenOffice. And I don't know what complete Linux library. I don't know what that means, but
Mm-hmm.
there it is. It's a bullet point. Probably some marketing mumbo jumbo.
Right.
But anyway, and the documentation is really nice on it. As a real manual. Back when they used to make these things out of paper,
Uh-huh.
and it's
But
I spent a lot of time reading this and how to do these things and whatnot. So I look from this and also from man pages.
that's nice. Now this is a little bit different question. What is your view and philosophy concerning free and open source software as opposed to proprietary versus proprietary software? Your view and philosophy.
All right. So in a nutshell, I am not against proprietary software.
Uh-huh.
I think that some proprietary software is fine. Someone wants to protect specific bits of their intellectual property for whatever reason. I get it. Totally understand. I don't fault them at all. Asterisk. There's conditions on that. That's not a that's not a hard line. However, comma space. I like the openness of the core of my operating system. So as much as I like the Commodore 64 and the Amiga, those are not open source operating systems. And so to me, that's a ding on them, even though they're old.
Right.
My issue is, what is the computer doing, and do I trust it? Now, I will say I have a little more trust for an Amiga because I don't feel like there's any nefarious marketing schemes and all these different crazy things that are trying to wiggle their way into the Amiga. They wanted you to buy, so they threw shareware and freeware at you to try and entice you. And so I'm fine with shareware and freeware and stuff like that. As far as like applications are concerned, as long as the core operating system, I can trust that it's open and transparent to me, the user. That's good. Now, if I have I'll run some proprietary bits on top of it. So like I'm running Steam. That's proprietary software. They support the open source heavily, but the actual interface and such, that's proprietary software. I have no problem with that, but I wouldn't want to base like everything on a Steam-based operating system outside of like the Steam Deck. That's a separate little thing. That's an appliance. It's not a computer. Oh, it's a computer that turned into an appliance, I guess, or something like that. But anyway, I don't view it as a desktop computer. It can be used as such, but that's not really its goal and focus.
Right.
So that's a little bit different. I don't want to have, although I would say Steam is a lot more transparent in their actions. They've actually have a good track record over time. And so as a company, although that could switch it, next leader of Steam, of Valve, could be a wackadoodle and could totally throw the thing in the dumpster by doing some nefarious things. But right now, I don't have any reason to distrust Steam.
Right.
Maybe I do. Maybe I should, and I don't. But I don't really have a reason. A lot of games are proprietary. I have no problem with proprietary games. And in fact, I would love for a CAD software that could do all the things that a proprietary package could do. I would love that if it was an open source version of that.
Right.
But right now there isn't one. Although I just got a note today that there might be something that is worth checking out. But anyway, so I have no issue with proprietary software, I guess, in that regard, unless it's abusive proprietary software. Now, someone might say all proprietary software is abusive. Like maybe, I can understand that argument. But I think for the most part, for the proprietary software that I would purchase, it is not, they're like CAD software, engineering software, stuff along those lines. Although I prefer them to be open source, I'm fine with buying those things because they are generally not crooked, warped media companies that are trying to extract information out of you. They just want you to build things, and they just want to get paid for designing the software that allows you to build things. And I have no problem with that.
Right.
So as a whole, yeah, proprietary software is fine, but not as the core part of my operating system.
Yeah, right. Now, notice that the free and open source software, for those who don't know, means that not that it's free financially, although it usually is, but because you're free to look at it, the source code, free to look at, and you're able to copy it over and do whatever you want with it, usually on the license. It all involves licensing issues on that. Want to throw that in. And
I mean, nothing's free.
Yeah,
work has to be done for something. So I mean, free software that's hosted on a server requires funding in order to keep that server operational.
Right.
No, until there's free energy, which I don't see that happening anytime soon.
Somebody's paying somewhere for something.
Exactly.
Even if it's just the developer devs and stuff. When they're,
right.
Mm-hmm. How do we say in the Linux Saloon, they have their labors of love reviewed and stuff like that.
So, I mean, if you're using some software that's free and they're accepting donations, if you can't afford it right now, okay, I get it. That's fine. But, when you do have time, when you are in a position where you can, give them a little scratch, as it were, then I think that you should in order to help keep that project running. If everybody gives just a little bit, and not very much, and we really wouldn't have, a couple bucks, $5, whatever, once a year even would be absolutely huge for an open source project. So there's a lot of projects that I do support. I don't necessarily support them every year because I try and give a little bit to the different projects, over time, what I can give. And sometimes I just forget. But like the KDE project and the Kden Live, because I use those all the time. The OBS project, I give those regularly. I give them at least annually. But like LibreOffice, I forgot to give them anything last year. I'll give them something this year
Yeah.
because I use that a lot too. And so it's a thing. It's just a matter of supporting these projects financially because they need funding to keep going as well. So that's how I
Yeah.
look at it.
Yeah. So one question I had, excuse me. One question I had was, does OpenSUSE run your Christmas slide display?
No,
Nope.
nope. It's actually Debian.
Yeah, Debian program.
So what is it's called Falcon Pi Player or FPP Falcon Player,
Mm-hmm.
and that is I could build it to run on OpenSUSE, but then I'm also taking a risk in every time they do updates or whatever, or something happens and with versions becoming out of sync.
Right.
And so the question comes to what's more important, that I have lights running or that it's running on OpenSUSE. I'd
Yeah.
prefer run on OpenSUSE just because I know it. But I know Debian pretty well at this point too. It's fine, because I used it on some Raspberry Pis or some single board computers, and it's fine. It's not awful. I don't consider Debian even remotely awful. I consider Arch pretty awful, but Debian I think is not awful at all.
Yeah.
I'm sorry if for those of you that are using Arch, I apologize. I'm sorry you like an awful operating system. But anyway, no, really, actually, it's fine. If you use Arch, that's fine. Whatever you like it,
Whatever
you like
works
it.
for you.
Whatever works for you. I don't have the patience or the discipline to run Arch, so maybe I'm just hating on you because you have something that I don't have,
Yeah.
or knowledge, or there's a lot of things I'm not very smart with. So that runs a Debian base, but it's all automatic. So it takes care of itself by the Falcon Player community, and I just use that project.
Mm-hmm.
So is it the but it works great. It's reliable. They just did a major like a UI improvement recently. I don't know when actually. I hadn't updated it in many, many months, like over a year. So I don't know when it happened. Could happen in the last 18 months and I didn't notice. But the UI is a lot nicer. It's a lot more mobile friendly too. So, and I'm, outside of the house with my phone. I don't carry a laptop with me when I test stuff because that's just kind of crazy.
Mm-hmm.
Mobile's for. That's, it's a really nice project and they do a really good job. And a lot of people have built stuff around that as far as using the ESP something lights. I can't remember what they are now. I just wrote it down too. Anyway, so there's like a lot of projects out there. Like I bought this thing called the Culp lights, which actually goes on top of a BeagleBone Black.
Mm-hmm.
The BeagleBone has more. It's a little more like an industrial Raspberry Pi, you could say. The single board computer, but has a lot more I/O. It's more equipped for controlling things. While Pi is more multimedia, this is more for controlling. And so it works great. I generally don't have any issues with it. If not, I might have to restart a string, like power cycle it so that the string resets. But that's usually a glitch with one of the lights, not so much the controller itself. But for a while there, I was having one strand that would just on the top of the house that would all of a sudden just go crazy. Sometimes it would correct itself, sometimes it wouldn't.
So how long does it take you to put together the light show? A light show.
All right. So right now I'm not doing any light shows on it. It just goes right now. It's just like pink, white, and red is my house for Valentine's Day.
Like for Christmas, do you get ready for Christmas? How long does it take you? Approximately, of course, it is different for your deer, but how long does it take approximately to put it together?
So just the programming of a sequence, can be anywhere between 4 and 8 hours of time programming the sequence. And it's kind of like a video editor as far as how that works. You have each each segment, however you define those segments, are their own basically timeline, and then you tell it to do what kind of effects. And I'm only basically scratching the surface of the program. It's called X Lights, and so I could probably do more. There's a way you can like layer effects and whatnot. It's not immediately clear to me how you layer effects, but you can.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's one way to that's how you basically put those things together.
Mm-hmm.
And then the hardware aspect of it, like this year, I had to do some couple of the strands, the segments. Actually, well, one of the strings. By the end of one of the strings, which had like frames around two front windows, one of the lights kind of just stopped working. So I had to. I just want to check and see if I had one here, but I don't. So I had to take that light out, like cut it out, and then solder in a new one. And so that takes some time to do, and then the rest of the strand will keep going. It's pretty easy to figure out which one's not working. All you have to do is look at it and it'll like flicker or whatever. You pull that one out, put a new one in, and it's fine. I have one that I do need to probably cut out and replace. That's kind of going toward the peak of the house in the back, but no one will see that. But like the blue channel is in and out. Right now it's working, but sometimes it's out. So then instead of having white, you'll have yellow because green and red make yellow in the light
You just
spectrum.
need all those lights up all year long to
The
turn
ones
down,
on the
come back
house,
up later on.
yeah, the ones on the house are not coming off. Those stay on because I changed the colors, and that's the majority of it. So like the rest is just laying stuff out, as far as like physical aspect of it, and that takes maybe a few hours to do, I guess, to lay it all out. I don't do it all in one day typically. I'll put
Yeah.
out I put out the control all the pixel lights. So like I have like candy canes, or call them chroma canes, and then the snowflakes. Those I'll put out, and that's one evening of work essentially. But then I built a pixel tree, so it has 890 lights in it, to include the star on the top. So I built that this year. That took a while. Actually, took a long time to do.
Did bump your electric bill up a good bit?
No, maybe it might, maybe the whole thing uses maybe 200 watts power. So then it's only on for a few hours in the evening and a few hours in the morning. Then it's like right now, it's actually the system is running and the lights are only partially on. So that I call it like a low power mode. It
Uh-huh.
just has like every eighth light on. And then the snowflakes, I think, and the chroma canes right now, they're just kind of doing a little sparkle thing. I keeping the canes out until the end of the month. And then in March, I'll take them down. But the tree looking thing is down. So it's just, and all the traditional Christmas lights, those are all down. But
Yeah.
the stuff on the house and the candy cane, chroma canes, those are still out. And right now, like pink and white canes, which kind of looks nice for Valentine's Day. Then at the end of winter, so basically end of March, I'll take the snowflakes down off the house, and then I can shut down one of the power supplies. But they don't. It really doesn't use very much power.
Yeah. That's interesting. So, what type of things are covered on your channel? I know you do stuff on retro stuff like your Commodore. You do 3D printing stuff. You do all sorts of things.
Well, I just released a video on how to force a manual unlock on a front load Whirlpool washing machine because it's just a short. It's a 1 minute video, but it has what happened was somebody put a rug in there, which the backing on the rug deteriorated and became those little bits, totally clogged up the washer, so it couldn't actually do the drain, and so it had water up the side of it. Now there's a safety feature that if there's water inside the tub, it's not going to let you open it for obvious reasons. So what do you
Right.
do if it can't drain and you have to get the water out of it?
Uh-huh.
Um, well, there's a way to manually force that latch open, and the way you do that is, and I basically just shown how it was done. You take the lid off, and then what you have to push to unlatch the door. Door pops open, and then you can catch the water, so it doesn't like go all over your hardwood floor, um, with a bucket. And actually, that worked pretty well, all things considered. But I did that yesterday, so I spent yesterday, was it, or Thursday? Thursday. I can't remember now. It wasn't yesterday. It was Thursday. But I spent about 6 hours cleaning out that washer. But I wasn't sure like how intrusive I should go with it. So, I pulled the sump off. It was kind of clogged up. So I tried um, using like a drain, like a little not a drain snake, but I don't want to run a drain snake through
Yeah.
some rubber hosing. But what you use to like get like hair out of a tub. So try to like dig some of it out there, then see if it would work. It
Right.
didn't. Uh, anyway, so then I ended up having to basically pull the whole thing out, take the back of it off. That's not in the video, but drop the sump line. That goes well, I should say from the sump of the tub that goes down into the pump. Took that down. That made a huge mess. Caught most of it. Well, by most of it, I mean maybe like quarter of it. The towels caught the rest. And then I put so that basically then I got out clean enough where I could then run a few like drain and like fill and drain cycles to clear out all the pipes, make sure it's nice and clean, and now it's working fine. Yeah, so I spent a long time cleaning that up. But the trick was like I was looking up how do you, and I worked for the company, but I didn't know how you open the latch because they've changed it. And so I put the model number in the title of the video. This is how you force an unlock of the latch. What it was. So anyway, a little bit of video editing, not too bad. I did.
Basically, you
It's in the.
call it Nathan's project.
You could basically, so CubicalNate YouTube channel is basically just whatever I'm working on. So I think it will remain a small, insignificant channel
Eclectic.
for the life of it because I don't see the Linux stuff will interest Linux people. The retro stuff will interest retro people. The oh my gosh, I got to fix something because it broke. That's probably evergreen content, but that'll it's a different group of people. I don't think I have enough of any one subject matter on my channel to get a subscribe.
The
Essentially, what it boils down
label
to.
is
I mean, so
third thing like that. Yeah.
yeah. So it's a general technology is what it is. So if you like general technology,
Yeah.
3D
So if
printing
you
stuff
call it
will
Nathan's projects, that'd be just as applicable. Applicable.
well, I would say more like 'cause, yeah, there are projects, but some things are like I've done like just talked about an old Commodore 64 game. That's not really a project. That's just it's more like whatever CubicalNate is into today channel. That's what it is.
Right. Cool. Yeah, I've watched a few of those and they're interesting. A lot of them, especially
I
3D
took a
printing stuff and things like that. I never have been around a 3D printer and stuff like that. So,
yeah, mine's running right now. I'm building a I'm not building anything. I'm having it print a it's a print in place puzzle box. So I don't
hmm.
know what that's going to look like. I don't know what it's going to be, but we'll find out.
We had another video on that one too, probably, huh?
Probably not at this stage. It's not to me. It's not interesting enough
Yeah.
yet. So I'm working on a different video right now. It's probably about I put quite a bit of time into it, but it's not really. I wouldn't say it's. I just did like the rough editing, which is fixing the sound. So like I'll take the video. So I record actually a lot of times with this mic, me working on stuff right there. I record it through OBS, but the filtration OBS isn't the best. And then if I process it afterward, I can get like better volume levels. I don't
Mhm.
just mean louder. I just mean better levels. So like I can take out some of the unwanted sounds and then put a compressor and limiter on it so that it's
Yeah.
and noise and normalization so I get it's more clear sounding, I would
Uh-huh.
say. And so I'll do that. Then I'll render those down as new clips that I'll pull then into the video. It's what I started doing for the last few videos. Well, some of the last videos. And so this one is the video I'm doing. Bleh,
Mhm.
I'm a bit of a stutterball turkey. The video I'm working on right now is something called it's about the C64.
Mhm.
And this is where it's like this is a niche of a niche of a niche. So we're talking about really, really like in one of those Venn diagrams.
Mhm.
The very center is very small. So what this is, it's a modern reimplementation of the Commodore 64. It gives you USB ports and HDMI, but it's not genuine hardware. It just runs. It's built, the same form factor as Commodore 64. It has a working keyboard, kind of like one of those like a mini, but it's a maxi. And inside of it is basically an ARM-based computer. And it runs Linux, but that's all obfuscated from the user. So there's a project that I found where you can actually have it do, well, it thinks it's doing an update, but it's not. And you can actually get into X Windows and you can actually use it sort of like a computer.
Uh-huh.
Not exactly. You can't get on the internet with it. At least, anyway, so I'm going to demonstrate how I do this and why I do it. And so one of the irritations I have is I can't edit file titles and names or configuration files on the system itself. I have to unplug USB, go back to a computer, plug it in, do whatever, safely remove it, plug it back to X60, plug it back into the system to do like back into the C64, test it out. If it doesn't work, then I got a basis back and forth thing. Now I can actually edit all of that on the computer, on the C64 itself with X Windows, and I can even do some other testing and whatnot. So it's pretty cool, and I like it.
Cool. So, what hobbies outside of Linux do you have?
Outside of Linux,
Yeah, or do you have anything outside of Linux?
I have lots of things. So I like to build stuff. I like to fix things. I have a little cubicle farm where I got some chickens and ducks and geese and turkeys and things. Chickens, ducks, geese, turkeys, and then I have guineas. I don't like the guineas though. And anyway, I want to get goats too. But I need to put up a new fence. I better contain them. So I've been working on that. I wouldn't say I would do that for fun, but the birds are definitely fun for me. Cleaning out a chicken coop, yeah, sure, that's not fun either. But I do enjoy the birds very much. They're like my little pets that, in a pinch I can eat, but they provide eggs. So I think everyone should have chickens.
Yeah.
And people are like, oh, how dare you say that? Ugh. But I think everyone should have chickens, and this is why. I have the amount of like scrap that I put into the garbage is nearly zero. The chickens eat just about everything. There are a few things they shouldn't eat. I don't know what those are, but they don't eat. They'll eat pretty much anything. So I can feed them like any kind of table scraps. They'll gobble it up, and they turn my garbage, like even like peelings and whatever else. They turn my garbage into breakfast.
Oh, really?
And I enjoy that breakfast because they give me eggs. And
Interesting.
so the way I see it is I'm doing, I am being more sustainable here, environmentally sustainable, because I take garbage and turn it into food, and I'm not putting stuff into landfills.
Yeah.
I mean, you can compost too, and I also compost. So then I have some fruit trees as well. And I have a garden. Although I'm moving the garden this year
Yeah.
because of reasons. It didn't get enough light where I had it last time, which is where the previous owners had it. So I don't know how they got anything out of their garden. But anyway, I want to be able to use then the waste from the chickens to grow vegetables and fruit and such. And then I like to take that. I need to learn how to can. Don't know how to do that. Yeah, I mean, I'm sure I can figure it out. They've been doing it for a long time. I must be capable. So anyway, I like the idea of
Being
homesteading a little bit.
independent, basically.
Yeah, like a little bit of homesteading.
Yeah.
Maybe we'll do more than just homesteading, but then I have I have a solar panel array on for my house. So I can then run my EV hybrid on that as well. So like if the power goes out and it's not a cloudy day, I am totally self-sustaining. So I don't need to have, I'm not dependent on the grid. I don't have to buy fuel to put in a generator. I'm all self-sustaining. I'm sure somebody's going to say, oh, but those batteries, you'll have to replace those batteries. I'm like, you're right. 15 years, I'll have to replace them. Until then, I'm good right now.
Is that the current version of what? How long the battery is supposed to last? About 15 years nowadays.
Well, these should last me 15 years. So they're warranted for 10, and from what I read, they should last longer than 10 years. So as long as they'll
10 to 15 or something like that. Huh?
Yeah. So I'll be pushing 60 when these batteries have to be replaced, and by then I'm sure they'll have even better technology.
I'm already past 60 myself. But
well, there you go. So, and then someone says, I spent a lot of money on this, and I shared that with somebody, the actual number, Like, oh my gosh, that's a lot of money. I said, yeah, you're right. It is. But I've locked in my costs for electricity. So I'm going to be paying money on electricity no matter what. The rates could keep going up, but now I've fixed my rates at a lower level. So yes, I'm still paying, but I've now controlled how much I'm paying. And eventually I'll have this paid, about 10 years or so, I'll have this paid off, I'd say,
Right.
completely. Maybe less, depends on if I put extra toward it.
Cool.
And so it's like, for me, it's more about interdependence. So I'm not totally dependent on the grid, but I'm not totally I'm not off the grid. I want to be part of the community that uses the electricity, but not necessarily just a consumer. That's how I'm looking at it.
Mhm. Cool. Yeah, I don't think they allow chickens in the apartment here, so I'm out of
Probably
that luck on
not.
that one.
Yeah.
Anyway, let's see. I think that's basically most of the questions I have for you. I don't know if I see anybody have a question for you in the chat.
Well, Joseph Degarmo says, I fixed the wallpaper issue on Spiral Linux and Budgie, installed GNOME Desktop, and rebooted into Budgie. Well, that's good to know. I
Yeah,
haven't tried Spiral Linux yet, but that's the same guy who makes Gecko Linux.
Joseph. Yeah, that's cool. Yeah, so Joseph makes Gecko Linux and Spiral Linux, right?
No, Joseph doesn't. It's his name's
Ben.
Sam. Joseph just uses. He's
He
just
just works with Ben.
he's a Linux Saloon,
Yeah, I know. I've seen him around before.
a
I don't know if
Linux
you're still there,
Salooner.
Joseph, but chime in if you have any questions or anything like that. Explorer, if you're here, that kind of thing. Thanks for everybody showing up, though. Steve dropped in for a while.
Well, sometimes it's on a Saturday afternoon. It's who can actually sees and knows.
Yeah. Now, one of the things I was wondering about is if probably ought to have my own interview at some point. So maybe you can interview me
Sure.
on a future one. I think next month what we'll get scheduled is Ben Fitzpatrick, is
Yep.
interviewee, and so we'll work on that. And at any rate, I guess that's it for the day then.
Alrighty.
Unless
Well,
you have
thank you very
anything you want to
much.
add.
I'm trying to think here. I would say to maybe steal a little bit from Doc Brown and Back to the Future.
There's
Your
Ben.
tech. Did he show up? Hey, y'all. I would say your technology is whatever you make out of it. So make it a good one. That's it. I'm taking from Doc Brown. And and that and that's very subjective, but it means that take control of your technology. Don't let technology take control of you, and learn how, and I don't just mean computers, but learn how the technology around you works. Become an expert in everything that really matters to you. Even that means your automobile, learn your automobile, learn these different things that you're as much to the limit of your ability, learn how to take control of these things, because with weirdness going on in the world right now, nobody knows what the future is going to hold.
Right.
All these bad things that are happening might just blow over, and we'll all laugh about it afterward. But there's a chance that things might not blow over, and there's really no downside to learning how your technology works. I think this is chance favors the prepared, and so just prepare.
Right.
I don't mean be a prepper. Don't build a bunker. You don't have to do that, but like just prepare your home, prepare your finances. I live in the cold north, so you always have an extra stockpile of food because you have to.
Right.
And so, just be no one can take away your experiences, no one can take away your education, no one can take away your knowledge. So people can take away things from you, but people can't take away you from you. I mean, I guess they can, but then once they do, then you have nothing to worry about anyway. So just be prepared. just learn, grow, become more than what you are. Always expand your knowledge base, and treat people with kindness. Be involved in your communities, whether it's an online community or a local community. Don't lock yourself away. Prepare in the sense of by knowing those around you, by know your neighbors and stuff like that. Just I think it's a good thing to do. It's not the most comfortable or fun thing to do necessarily, but who knows? You might find another technology enthusiast, a Linux nerd that you can have like real Linux user groups around you. If you do that.
Yeah.
Um,
So we never did touch on community. That's why we didn't touch on the community aspect of Linux. I know
I
you're
think
big
that's
on that concept.
oh yeah, that's I think the important piece of community of Linux. Probably the key piece of Linux is the community because really, I mean, without the community, it's all kind of pointless, really. You know, the idea that you can't just focus on the technology alone because without the human experience, the technology is meaningless. Everything's meaningless without the human experience. So, get to know the people around you, help the people around you. You don't have to necessarily agree with the people around you and every aspect and the decisions that they make for their lives, but who cares? It's not they don't have you don't have to see them in the mirror every night. You have to see yourself in the mirror and know that you are the best version of you that you can possibly be.
Right.
So just be kind, and that's also very subjective. What does that mean to be kind? It means you don't have to be a jerk, but you also don't have to agree with somebody. You can also disagree with them, and
Right.
you can do it in a kind way. There's a way to kindly disagree with somebody and their choices, but at the end of the day, if it doesn't affect you personally,
Mhm.
it's not worth fighting about. But there's so many times you hear about these flame wars and people get all upset online over some bit of technical minutia, and
Right.
it's like, why? What does it matter? Like I think there's been a lot of drama in the gnome community, lots of drama,
Mhm.
and I think that gnome isn't. I mean, this may not be the best thing to say, but I think in general, I think gnome is in trouble. I think as a project, they're in trouble.
Really.
They've alienated a lot of their people around them, a lot of the other, like other projects with their goals, and they've. But I mean, that's fine. I think that's okay. If if the natural course for their decisions will be the death of gnome, which I hope it doesn't, and that was that was what their goals ultimately caused. I mean, like Budgie broke away; they're not using gnome anymore. You have you have System 76 breaking pop away; they're not going to use gnome anymore. You have all these forks that don't use the core bits of gnome anymore, or have like forked away, and I think that's sad. But if the projects diverge and the projects diverge and that's it. The project that has the best, healthiest community will flourish, and the projects that do not will not flourish. And we should take, but it's not. But I think it's still a net positive because then, as long as we're not ignorant, well, ignorance fine. As long as we're not stupid, we can learn from those mistakes and say, well, this is not a good thing to do, and here's why. This project fizzled out for these reasons. As long as we're objective about why these things happen, then it's okay. It's all part of the human experience, and we grow from that. Now, me personally, I hope Gnome continues to be Gnome and do the Gnome things that they like to do.
Mhm.
But at the same time, I don't want them to alienate the community so much that they wither and die as a project. So
Right.
it's a fine line to uh, to walk, but hopefully they do it in such a way. Yeah, a sin and broke away from Gnome, as Joseph says in the chat.
Mhm.
Hopefully they find a way to continue as they need to be a success. I want I don't think there has to be a loser. Everyone in the Linux and open source world can be successful. It's not a zero sum game. There, everyone can win, and rising tides raise all ships. So I think that there's no need to sink another ship.
Right.
Just do the best you can for what you know, and do it in a kind way that doesn't drive others away.
Yeah. Yeah,
That's how I
I
look at
know a
it.
lot of Gnome. A lot of people use Gnome, and like it,
Yeah.
love it. So I'd hate to see it die off too, even though I'm not a like Gnome friendly person, but I like KD better and that kind of thing. But it's whatever works, and Gnome works for a lot of people apparently.
And then they should keep using it. That's all there's to it. If it works for you and you're happy with it,
Yeah.
contribute to the project and use it. I don't, I mean, I like to do little ribbings, whatever. Oh, because I
Right.
don't really care for Gnome because Gnome doesn't work well for me at
Right.
all. So, but if it works well for you,
Have at it.
go forth and do great things.
And on that note, maybe we ought to go forth ourselves. So, Ben, Joseph, the explorers, and Steve, I think are all the people who are here today. Thanks for showing
Thanks.
up and for commenting and stuff. And Steve, of course, has already gone on, but he'll probably review this, see what we said about him after he left.
All
so,
good things, I'm sure.
so anyway, don't forget to subscribe if you want to get more of these features, or hit the like button and the like button, not or, but and. and and the bell if you want to get notified when we're about to have a podcast come up. Or
Yep.
he's
And you can catch me every Saturday night at 8 p.m. Eastern on the World Wide Webs,
yeah,
YouTube's for Linux Saloon. Also, I think it restreams to Twitch too. So if you want to check out every Saturday night, almost every Saturday night, there's some Saturday nights I won't do it because I
every
can't.
once in a while I show
But
up to those things.
yeah, it used to be more often, but then I think something changed for you. But yeah, that's fine.
Yeah,
There's, people have real lives, and I
yeah,
prefer that they do what's best for them.
right,
My feelings are not going to be hurt. If you
right,
show up, show up. If you can't, don't.
yeah. Matter of fact, I was going to show up for the last one on Gecko Linux, but I didn't make it. So
It's
it's
all right.
about 7 o'clock. I realized, oh, that's going on. Darn, missed it. Oh well. So
Yeah, you can show up late too. A lot of people do.
yeah, I know. I noticed that in the past too. Anyway, see, subscribe and like and all that good stuff, and we'll see you next time. And Linux Force be with you. Bye.
See yous.